3 ways a narcissist financially abuses their high-earning partner. That's what I'm breaking down for you in this video. Hi, I'm Dr. Melissa. I'm a trauma expert, top doctor, leadership catalyst for narcissistic abuse survivors, and the CEO of Sustainably You, where we help soul-driven leaders like you transcend your past experience of narcissistic abuse to create greater impact and fulfillment as you change the world. Today we're talking about 3 ways a narcissist financially abuses their high-earning or high net worth partner. And this is a type of abuse that is typically suffered in silence. So let me tell you about John. John was the CEO of this large security company. He was in the business of reading people, his clients, his senior leadership team, his employees, and he considered himself to be really good at it. He executed his ability to read people flawlessly in his work environment, in his business. But his personal life was an entirely different matter. John was swept away with this woman who was younger. She was creative, flowy, uninhibited. She was really the opposite of the people that he worked with every day. And maybe even more importantly or more convincingly, she told him that they were soulmates. Now, after about a year, she started having less time for John. She was no longer interested in kissing or holding hands or any kind of physical intimacy. But even then, she tried to reassure and convince John that they were soulmates, that nothing was ever going to change that relationship. She told him she was just under a lot of stress. She needed to find a stable living environment for herself, for her daughter. She just couldn't afford to do that. So John, being the big-hearted, caring person that he is, gave this woman, who he believed to be his soulmate, and her daughter, the money, the resources to get their home. And then he never saw the inside of it. She stopped returning his calls altogether. Now, in my work as a leadership catalyst for narcissistic abuse survivors, I can tell you that this story is not uncommon. This is financial abuse of the high-earning or high net worth leader. Now, you may have heard of financial abuse before. It is present in 98% of domestic violence relationships. It's described as withholding financial resources, stealing financial resources, or restricting the use of financial resources. And my guess is that pretty much everywhere that you've heard this discussed, they were talking about financial abuse of the lower earning or lower net worth partner. But this is a really limited perspective or view of financial abuse. Financial abuse also affects high earning and high net worth individuals. You notice it when you see the power and control and devaluation that's achieved through manipulation, deception, gaslighting, projection. And this type of financial abuse is a tactic commonly used by covert narcissists. We're going to talk about the 3 categories of financial abuse of the high earning or high net worth individual, but regardless of the type of category, on the individual is extreme. And you're going to see that these categories match up very much with the categories for a low earning or low net worth partner. Just the way that it plays itself out looks different. So the first is withholding financial resources. I'm just going to start by giving you an example. Pete and his wife Denise have been married for 12 years. They've both worked the entire duration of their relationship. Pete contributes 70% to the household income. Denise contributes 30% to the household income. This has worked really well for them. But now Denise wants to quit her job and become a trad wife after watching TikTok videos. Pete's not so jazzed about this idea. He really likes their current situation. It allows him to work 4 days a week, to be able to coach his son's soccer, to really be part of the family, being only responsible for 70% of the household income. But without discussing it further, Denise quits her job anyway. Even worse, she refuses to go back to work and grins when she sees how distressed Pete is at the fact that he now needs to come up with 100% of their household income. Typically, withholding financial resources looks like asking the higher earner to pay for things that would normally be the other person, the person doing the asking's responsibility. In the dating relationship, this might be activities, outings, things where both parties are sharing in the experience, both parties are benefiting. So this might be like asking the high earner to pay for all meals out, all travel, all entertainment, all transportation. But often the ask or the expectation is that the high earner also covers things that only benefit the other person. Things like paying for their oil change or their electric bill or their clothing or giving money to their friends and family. Now, in the married or the cohabiting relationship, it looks a little bit different. It often involves convincing or coercing the high earner to cover more of the household expenses, the combined expenses, than was previously agreed upon. And this can look a couple different ways, right? It could be the example of Pete and Denise, where the one partner just quits their job and refuses to work. It could be cutting back on work hours. It could be having this belief that what you make is the family's and what I make is mine. That is also financial abuse. Now, of course, it's common for the higher earner to pay a larger portion of the shared expenses. That's natural, and that is not financial abuse in and of itself. It is financial abuse, however, to make demands or have expectations that someone pay above and beyond their agreed upon contribution. This is a power and control play that's designed to take away that high earners or high net worth person's autonomy. Okay, number 2, stealing financial resources. Let's start with another example. Jackson calls Sarah at work and wants her bank account info. He needs $300 to buy something that day. They've been dating for 3 months. Sarah's like, look, I'm at work. I can Venmo you the money right now. I can write you a check when I get home. But Jackson's really persistent. He wants the bank account info. And he says, look, how can we even move forward in a relationship if you can't trust me? I'm not your ex. So Sarah reluctantly agrees to give him the bank account information. And 3 months later, her bank account is empty and Jackson is gone. Stealing from high income or high net worth individuals is far more common than you'd think. It may be something small, like slipping a 50 out of their wallet or jotting down a credit card number to charge something small, or charging something to your shared hotel room, the hotel room that they're paying for. It may be a depletion of resources over time by constantly overspending the budget in any given category. Could be clothes, shoes, hair and nails. Could be things like boats or vacations or other hobbies. And oftentimes, like in the story of Jackson and Sarah, it can be very large, draining personal bank accounts, draining business bank accounts, draining investment accounts, disappearing with your car. Theft is really profound devaluation, and it's delivered with this sense of entitlement that the high earner or high net worth person got what they deserved. Number 3, obtaining financial resources through deception. Okay, let me give you another example. Anna separated from her husband Don after 20 years of devaluation in their marriage. She had always been the primary breadwinner for their household. Anna discovered that Don had taken equity out of their home years ago to buy property in another country in his name only. She had actually signed the document He had misled her into believing she was signing to open a new bank account. In the divorce, she had no access and no rights to that asset that was purchased with the funds that she had contributed to the home equity. Deception is the approach that's used by the most clever, cunning, savvy of financial abusers. It includes things like asking for a loan that they have no intention of repaying, taking out debt in your name, forging your signature on documents, or convincing you that you're signing something else, filing taxes fraudulently, convincing you to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into their great business idea, and then never putting in the work or the time to create any kind of return on your investment, or even coercing you into adding them as the beneficiary, the account owner, or the business owner on your assets. Now, here's how you recognize the manipulation. Covert narcissists thrive on plausible deniability. This is how they're able to avoid accountability. When they're caught, they're going to tell you that they intended to repay you, that they intended to grow a $1 billion business with your investment, that, oh, I meant to tell you I took $50 from your wallet, or that it's not their fault they can't find work. The key here is to notice when their actions don't fit their words. The covert narcissist will future fake you into loaning them more money, giving them your account info, even paying their electric bill. And you're going to hear words and phrases that should jump out at you like the massive red flags that they are. Things like, you care more about money than people. You're so selfish. You're so controlling. All you care about is yourself. Oh, I thought you were so well off. What? Don't you trust me? Do you want me to have my electricity turned off? Don't you care if I'm happy? You're the one with the big job. Of course you should pay. You're never going to be able to spend all of your money. Why can't you share? Or you're financially abusing me. The covert narcissist gaslights you into believing that you're the problem, that you are the one that's selfish, self-centered, greedy, controlling, money-focused, abusive, that you lack empathy, that you are the narcissist. And unfortunately, this often works. They have trapped you in the drama triangle. And when they're playing the role of victim, the only roles left are persecutor or rescuer. If you're not willing to rescue, they see you as persecuting. Recovering from financial abuse for the high income or high net worth individual has its own unique set of challenges, something that is not talked about in all of those other financial abuse articles that you see or videos that you see. The victim of this type of abuse, being very intelligent, very successful, often feels like they were stupid or wrong or deserving of their bad outcome. They feel a lot of shame, like they should have known better. And their self-doubt and their shame impact their business, impact their career. Like the first man I told you about, John, they start to wonder if they're actually good at reading people. It starts to impact their work. They no longer know who to trust. It's a really isolating place to be. And the victim avoids sharing their story because of the profound shame that they feel. As a leader, they're already isolated. And now they are faced with the possibility of losing the respect and the trust of their business partners, their leadership team, their employees, if they were to share what happened. If they try to share it with their friends and their family, especially if they're not in the same financial place, it gets kind of blown off as like first world problems. Guess it's time to move out of the castle. I mean, really dismissed and disregarded with no empathy or acknowledgement of their pain. And because they heard that they were controlling and selfish and greedy and money focused, and all of those things. They believe they have so many character defects that they don't even want to bring this up to anyone or get any kind of help. So they write off relationships so that they're not taken advantage of again. And this unwillingness, this discomfort with sharing their experience, combined with not creating any new relationships, creates profound isolation. It walls them off from the empathetic witness and the empathetic witnessing that would help them transcend their experience. Fortunately, narcissistic abuse recovery and financial abuse recovery for the high earner, the high net worth individual is entirely possible with the right process. A process for leaders who want to transcend their past and change the world. A process that I teach high impact leaders like you every day. And if you want to be one of them, comment "I'm ready" and let's have a conversation. See you in the next video.